that alone wasn't enough to guarantee Prost the title again. He may have been able to count on the best car and engine combination in the field, but he had to cope with a rival, and a dangerous one because he had the same equipment, his own teammate. And the partnership with Prost at McLaren turned from being a duo to a duel. Unlike Lauda, who knew that his career was in its twilight, Prost refused to accept that he wasn't as quick as the newcomer, and what followed was a merciless battle which ended by turning sour. After Senna took the title in 1988, Prost took his revenge in 1989, following a tangle between the two teammates at Suzuka, a disputed situation which saw Prost leave the team. But he found a well-paid accident. Snapped up by Lotus, the obviously talented Senna rapidly established himself as the new force in motorsport. What made this fanatical perfectionist even more special was his constant quest for the ultimate performance, remarkable vision and relentless determination.
Unless I have a feeling that I'm giving my very best, I don't feel happy. And in order I can give my very best, I have to concentrate, I have to work hard, and I have to push all the time myself and the people that are working around me to improve and to be better.
First of all, he became the all-time #1 in the pursuit of pole positions. Nobody knew quite how to get the best out of the super sticky but short-lived qualifying tyres like Senna, nor how to clear the track of traffic to give him a clean run. Added to these talents was a mysterious personality, and the combination was sometimes worrying, sometimes frightening. Senna's first Grand Prix victory came in Portugal in 1985, his second season, and as a result of a remarkable drive in soaking conditions as at Monaco a year earlier. Such was his car control and supremacy above all others that some nicknamed him Magic that day. The strength of his powers of analysis, his nerve and his confidence have all contributed to his remarkable results. Spent so much time with them, helping them understand and in turn helping them to conquer the world of Formula One. That year remains in the annals of Formula One as an incredible one. Statistically, the McLaren pair came close to a Grand Slam. They won 15 Grand Prix out of 16. 10 times they finished first and second, 6 more than the previous record. Such dominance suggests a very tedious season, but it was far from that. In fact, it was one of the most lively ever. Prost and Senna almost took turns at winning in their fascinating battle, as though they were following a script. The Frenchman had the best start to the year and equaled his own record of 7 victories. But the Brazilian would equal that and then score 1 more, winning the championship in the face of his more senior colleague in his first season with the team. It was a remarkable feat, but according to Senna, just 1 step on the way to his holy grail.
There is a big difference between winning a championship or being a true champion. Every year there is a winner, but not every year there is a champion.
In truth, the new world champion had been affected by a psychological war that Prost had waged against him in order to destabilize him.
What can disturb the image of a champion is polemics and antagonism coming from people who cannot accept being defeated and trying to find excuses when they lose instead of recognizing that they have been beaten. That can make a lot of destruction.
Prost was a past master in the art of manipulating the media and had instigated a campaign to suggest that his team favored the other driver at his expense. And Senna, with a touch of the spoilt child, was attempting to get his own back in the 1989 Japanese Grand Prix with a risky overtaking maneuver, only to find Prost slamming the door, and not very well. All hell broke loose. While blame could be attributed to both drivers, Senna became the scapegoat. He was disqualified and didn't simply lose the championship, but also his dignity. He was mortified, certain that he was the victim of a conspiracy and consequently set out on a futile crusade against the governing body. But these events, far from undermining his confidence, actually strengthened it. Having been accused of dangerous driving in 1990, this time he treated his critics with scorn. And he got his own back on Prost the following year by turfing him off the track at Suzuka and taking the championship. Just revenge for what he regarded as similar treatment suffered a year before, which had cost him the title.
I have had great races in my career, fortunately. But I'm still looking for my best one in the future.
Senna would go on to win a third title in 1991, and he could go on to equal, if not beat, the magnificent record of 5 titles won by Fangio. But there will be plenty of young drivers trying to beat him, which makes him one of the all-time greats. Prost, of course, is an anagram of sport. Was he destined to become a champion?
J'avais tenté de faire la maîtrise d'éducation physique. J'avais été au Krebs à l'INF Vichy là, pour être footballeur. Bon, j'ai eu un problème de genou. J'ai raté la maîtrise d'éducation physique pour pas grand-chose. Donc, à la limite, je l'aurais réussi à cette époque-là. Puis c'était une année avant. Je serais maintenant en survêtement Adidas avec les tongs devant ma télévision. Je serais prof de gym, peut-être, je sais pas. La vie, elle a basculé complètement. Mais j'avais tellement envie d'essayer en tout cas, compte tenu que j'étais vraiment performant en karting. Donc j'ai établi à ce moment-là un plan de travail.
And that plan of action became the optimal career. After winning his first international title in junior karting in 1972, he won the ELF scholarship at the end of 1975, then won the French Formula Renault championships in 76 and 77, followed by victory in the European and French Formula 3 championships the following 2 years. Prost thoroughly exploited the graduation program that had been established in France in the 70s. However, he needed to do more than just be carried along by the program, however good a foundation it may have been.
La filière, moi je crois que c'est la filière gagnante, c'est-à-dire qu'il faut gagner, il faut être là, il faut être au top. Et puis, mais il y a beaucoup de circonstances favorables ou défavorables qui décident plus ou moins du sort d'un pilote.
That's how Prost found himself behind the wheel of a Formula One car in only his 5th season of motor racing and scored his first World Championship point in his first Grand Prix, Argentina in 1980, driving a McLaren Ford. Right away, he immediately proved to have an exceptional talent at setting up a car, certainly on a par with his more experienced teammate, John Watson. And Renault welcomed him with open arms the following year, giving him the opportunity to attain instant hero status at the time. Yet, in spite of being burdened with this responsibility, Prost displayed remarkable maturity. He instantly established himself as the undisputed leader of the Renault ELF team and scored his first Grand Prix win in France in 1981. And as well as remarkable talent behind the wheel, he proved to be utterly ruthless in his determination to make progress, certainly a strong point.
Je crois qu'il y a quand même une bonne partie de dons au départ. Et puis après, c'est beaucoup de travail, du travail je dirais, de recherche, pas simplement sur le plan du pilotage. Je pense que le pilotage s'affine au fil des années. C'est l'expérience, c'est le fait de rouler beaucoup avec des voitures différentes, des puissances différentes, des pneus différents. Mais c'est un travail de longue haleine, je dirais, au niveau de tout ce qu'on peut apprendre sur la voiture elle-même, sur les rapports humains. Parce que ça, c'est très important, les rapports du pilote à son mécanicien, du pilote à l'ingénieur, du pilote au directeur d'écurie, ou même avec les sponsors, avec les gens de la télévision, avec les médias. Et donc, je crois que c'est un travail de longue haleine qui fait que, bon, il y a des hauts, des bas. Et puis, il y a un certain moment dans la carrière où, bon, tout baigne dans l'huile.
So Prost and Renault flourished together. But it was a journey that was riddled with pitfalls, which at times interrupted and upset a progressive route that until then had been quite straightforward. But it revealed a trait in Prost's character which hadn't been apparent until then. He proved to be a very bad loser. his relationship with his teammate, as well as his basic popularity, would suffer.
Au bout de, je dirais, d'un an, 2 ans de Formule 1, je crois qu'il y a un cap que tout le monde passe. C'est-à-dire qu'on est attiré un petit peu par la gloire, par l'argent. Et ça, c'est même pas la volonté du pilote en lui-même, c'est le fait que automatiquement il y a des convoitises, il y a les enchères, les transferts. Donc alors on est convoité, on a une valeur marchande, donc on essaye d'en profiter. Automatiquement, ça, je dirais que ça dérègle un petit peu. On en perd peut-être un petit peu d'ailleurs la notion principale, c'est-à-dire pour la raison pour laquelle on a couru la première fois, c'est-à-dire la passion. On est un petit peu attiré par l'appât du gain, par la gloire. La gloire, c'est autre chose, parce que la gloire, on sait que la gloire vient automatiquement en gagnant, donc quand même être raisonnable. On ne peut pas aller par exemple dans une équipe qui vous propose beaucoup d'argent et qui n'est pas compétitive, ça n'existe pas. Mais c'est vrai que je crois qu'on perd un petit peu le fil pendant quelques temps. Et puis après, ça revient, parce que malgré tout, ce qui compte, c'est de se faire plaisir.
Prost succeeded in overcoming the first difficult stage of his career without too much hindrance, and then went from success to success with Renault during the 82 and 83 seasons, where he confirmed that he had what it takes to be world champion. But he was pipped to the post the first time he looked likely to take the title by Piquet in what are sometimes thought of as slightly dubious circumstances. The Prost-Renault partnership didn't survive this frustrating setback. The divorce was unpleasant and sad. The driver bitterly and publicly blamed his team, which in turn violently rejected his allegations.
Pour moi, c'est complètement un sport d'équipe. Mais c'est évident que ça devient un sport individuel dans la mesure où on est deux. C'est-à-dire qu'on est deux pilotes dans une équipe. Si vraiment il n'y avait qu'un pilote dans une équipe, on ne parlera même pas de sport individuel. L'individualité, elle rentre en ligne de compte uniquement parce qu'on est deux pilotes dans la même équipe et que malgré tout, l'adversaire le plus représentatif pour un pilote par rapport à un autre, c'est son coéquipier et il a la même voiture.
Ron Dennis, the hard-headed team patron of McLaren, had long wanted Prost to drive for him. And in 1984, he jumped at the chance of signing him alongside double world champion Niki Lauda. Prost blossomed in McLaren's super-professional environment, where he found the kind of perfection that he craved. Now he could glean intimate knowledge as to how to win the World Championship from a teammate who had twice won it, and who was the very model of discipline. He reached his ultimate goal on October the 6th, 1985, after the European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, winning his first World Championship title. There was no element of luck. It had been won by the best driver at the time, in the best car in the field.
La chance existe une fois que l'homme et la machine ont fait leur travail. Mais vous ne gagnez jamais une course grâce à la chance. Si vous la gagnez, c'est peut-être parce que les autres en ont eu un petit peu moins que vous, ou ils ont eu des problèmes, ou leur voiture n'était pas aussi bien préparée, etc. Mais vous ne gagnez jamais une course grâce à la chance. Mais de temps en temps, je pense qu'entre deux pilotes ou entre deux équipes sur l'ensemble pas d'une course, sur l'ensemble d'une saison, sur l'ensemble d'une carrière, il y a des pilotes un petit peu plus chanceux, c'est vrai, ou qui ont un petit peu plus de réussite. Mais ça compte très peu.
But then, every now and then, a tiny bit of good fortune can make all the difference. Prost benefited from it the next season, when he came out the winner from the ruthless rivalry which grew between Piquet and Mansell within the Williams Honda team, which allowed him to pit them both to the World Championship. In 1986, the McLaren tag Porsches were relatively powerless against the Anglo-Japanese cars. But Williams' two drivers shared the points, and Prost was still in with a chance in the final race of the season. The unlucky Mansell virtually had the title in his pocket, but then fate took a hand. he suffered a tyre failure on the Adelaide Straight. And Prost won the title. He had every right to be thrilled. Against all odds, he had gained a success which might well have been denied him by the inferiority of his equipment, yet which came within his grasp thanks to the indiscipline of his rivals. He was at the peak of his sport. Fastidious, Prost leaves nothing to chance, and he analyses everything very clearly.
Le moment le plus difficile pour moi dans le week-end, c'est plus avant la première séance d'essai, parce que là, il y a une certaine nervosité, on ne sait pas si la voiture va être bien, va être compétitive sur le circuit lui-même, et puis surtout avant les qualifications. Je reconnais que dans cet exercice-là, je suis peut-être un petit peu plus faible, parce que d'abord, il y a une prise de risque beaucoup moins importante. Sur un tour, bon, j'ai toujours utilisé les pneus de qualification moins bien que certains autres pilotes, parce que ça dépend du style de conduite. J'ai tendance à moins user les pneus, d'ailleurs en course, donc c'est un avantage, mais en qualification, j'arrive moins à les faire chauffer, notamment les pneus avant. Donc j'ai toujours les pneus arrière qui arrivent en température avant les pneus avant, donc un phénomène de sous-virage, je pousse les roues avant. C'est évident que c'est pour moi un handicap très important.
This reluctance to reach his limit became more obvious when Senna became Prost's teammate at McLaren in 1988 and then frequently beat him in qualifying. Clearly, Prost no longer liked to take a risk that he couldn't calculate precisely. At the same time, the impetuous talent of the young Brazilian also revealed Prost's aversion to rain.
Les gens qui aiment la pluie, c'est parce qu'un jour, un pilote a peut-être une voiture idéale sous la pluie, il a gagné une course sous la pluie. Et là, après, pendant 6 mois ou 1 an, c'est le roi de la pluie, il dit « j'aime la pluie ». Et en réalité, le jour où il aura une voiture beaucoup moins compétitive, ou alors il va faire un tête à queue à 300 à l'heure dans la ligne droite, il va dire « oh là là, la pluie c'est dangereux, j'aime pas la pluie ». Moi, je peux courir sous la pluie, j'ai fait de très belles courses sous la pluie, j'en ai gagné sous la pluie, mais j'aime pas parce que je trouve que ça dénature la course automobile, c'est pas bien pour le spectacle et c'est très dangereux.
Prost, however, has the courage of his convictions when he's sure that he's right. That's to his credit, because it's not easy when you have no support. That was the unfortunate situation which occurred during the notorious 1989 Australian Grand Prix. Prost was under a lot of pressure, but he considered the track to be dangerous due to its poor drainage. Consequently, he tried to persuade other drivers that the start should be delayed. But the obstinate Senna refused to agree, and in the end, one after another, the rest were persuaded to start by the race officials. Prost also started, but after a hazardous tussle with Senna, decided to quit after 1 token lap as a protest. As far as he was concerned, it wasn't sufficiently safe. As there was little to prove, he felt no compunction to carry on, in spite of risking criticism from his team and the public. But in fact, he had every reason to quit. Visibility was almost non-existent, the track was flooded, and the next 2 hours proved him right. There were at least a dozen accidents, and it was a miracle that no one was hurt. But Prost was still the one who was judged to be wrong, and it's something that has been repeated many times in similar circumstances where his hasn't always been the easiest of roles. It's given him a reputation of being a moaner and groaner, and that annoys him.
Je pense que la majorité des sportifs n'ont pas leur vraie image au travers des médias. Pour moi, c'est nul de dire, tiens, ce sportif a une image d'un gars sérieux, tout ça, celui-là a l'image d'un gars qui sort en boîte de nuit, qui s'amuse et tout ça. Je trouve que c'est dommage parce que ça peut changer. Je pense que si j'avais vraiment une image ou si j'étais catalogué comme quelqu'un de comme ci ou comme ça, ce serait vraiment dommage. Parce que je crois que depuis 72, j'ai beaucoup changé, beaucoup évolué, et à mon avis, c'est pas fini. Et j'ai horreur du mot image et étiquette.
Prost's relationship with the media is ambiguous. Misunderstood, he finds himself disliked.
On regarde une certaine partie de la presse, moi j'ai pas peur de dire que c'est un manque de professionnalisme absolument évident. Et je trouve que c'est assez énervant au bout de 10 ans, 11 ans de Formule 1 de voir ça, quoi. Alors c'est on en prend un petit peu par-ci, un petit peu par-là, puis au bout du compte, ça fait un certain ras-le-bol. Et plutôt que d'exploser, d'éclater, de dire voilà, j'en ai ras-le-bol, j'arrête, moi je me complais dans mon petit univers, et puis voilà, je continue à faire ce qui me plaît, c'est-à-dire conduire ma voiture, c'est tout. Le public italien est très très bon parce qu'il a un côté complètement passionné, il est très très chauvin, c'est-à-dire c'est Ferrari qui compte en premier. Il peut y avoir le meilleur pilote italien du monde sur une autre voiture, ils soutiendront toujours Ferrari. Ça, je trouve ça super parce qu'ils sont quand même comme ça. Et ils sont surtout 200 000 sur un Grand Prix.
Prost's need for recognition and adulation almost certainly had some influence on his decision to join Ferrari in 1990, combined with the fact that he had been usurped as team leader at McLaren by Senna, and it was a comforting way of warding off his relatively cool reception from the French public. But the Prost Ferrari extravaganza, which opened dramatically full of hope and enthusiasm, sadly closed less than 2 years later. To begin with, however, it was love at first sight, and surprise! Instead of this Scuderia becoming more anglicised under the influence of the former McLaren driver, it was Prost who became more Italian. Proof of that was his emotion at winning his first Grand Prix for Ferrari in Brazil. A few weeks later in Mexico, Prost scored one of his most impressive victories, even though he started only 13th on the grid.
J'ai vraiment d'abord très bien réglé ma voiture. Je pense que j'ai bien potassé la voiture pour la course. Et en fonction de ça, j'ai fait une course d'attaque et tactique, parce que d'attaque, il fallait bien entendu doubler, et tactique, c'est évident que quand on est comme ça dans une position de 13e sur la grille, on a tendance à attaquer comme un fou au début, mais même si on passe quelques voitures, souvent les pneus ça ne résistent pas, la mécanique, tout ça. Il a fallu être très très patient.
A new chapter in Prost's career opened with the 90s. Would the champion of the 80s win his gamble by bringing the title back to Italy after more than a decade of disappointment? Would he be able to erase the feeling of humiliation felt after his untimely departure from McLaren and reverse the struggle with Senna in his favour? In spite of Ferrari's poor reputation for political intrigue, the team seemed to fulfill Prost's hopes and ambitions at first. They won races together. Prost was idolised by the Italian tifosi as Ferrari's new